Welcome to my 288th weekly office hours webcast. Please continue to type your questions. Now, I've received so many questions from my students about how to get a raise or a promotion or how to negotiate for a higher salary. And I thought it would be really helpful to quickly chat about career tips to help you make more money, help you get a promotion, and how to decrease the chances of losing your job. So let's kick it off with tips on how to get a raise or a promotion. Now, you might have noticed that people you work with are getting a raise or promotion faster than you are. And you might be thinking, I just don't get it. It's frustrating. And you're probably thinking, I'm adding more value to the firm than they are. Now, the secret is most people get promoted because they ask. So how do they ask? Well, they do it strategically multiple times in one-on-one meetings with their boss. It's that simple. So why does this work, and how do you ask for a raise or a promotion? Well, it works because it puts a little bit of pressure, in a good way, on your boss to recognize your hard work, or they might be worried that you're going to quit. Now, it also shows them that you are long-term focused because you really care about your career just like they do. So what do you say to your boss, and when do you say it? So when your boss congratulates you on a job well done, you immediately say, thank you. Please let me know if you have time for a quick coffee meeting. And since they're likely in a very good mood because they complimented you, you need to strike while the iron is hot, as you've got a small window of opportunity. Then, in the one-on-one coffee meeting, if true, you start with this. I really enjoy working here, and our team has accomplished so much. And as you know, it's expensive to raise a family here in the Bay Area or wherever you live. And I want to provide the best standard of living and education for my family. As a result, I would love to ask you to please let me know what additional value or goals I need to achieve in order to be considered for a raise or a promotion. Then what you do is you write down everything they tell you in a notebook. Okay, side note, I'm a really tiny man in real life. Ask for quantifiable goals too. For example, if you work in sales. Then, at the end of the meeting, you of course thank them for their time. And if you're at a coffee shop and the bill for the coffee comes, then it's really important that you do this. I have alligator hands, I can't find my wallet, and T-Rex can't do push-ups. Sorry, awful dad humor. Of course you pay for it. Then what you do is in 3 to 6 months later, when your boss congratulates you again, and if you've achieved all the goals that you wrote down, then you ask for another meeting. And you start with the usual, if true, I love our team, we've accomplished so much together. Then you say, the last time we met, I humbly asked what I need to accomplish in order to get a raise or a promotion. And I'm happy to say that I've accomplished those items, and as a result, I would love to please ask you for a raise or a promotion. Then you pause and you wait for them to respond. You say nothing, you pause. And the reality is that most people that are manager or vice president level or even higher have asked many times to be promoted behind closed doors. And they know what you're doing, and they're going to respect you for it. And ask and you'll receive. It's prophetic. And it's certainly been true since the beginning of time. Now, you will never get anything in business or in life unless you ask multiple times. So ask for the sale. Ask for a raise. Ask for a promotion. Now, if you work at a larger company, you can also contact human resources or go to the human resources website and find out what the documentation is for the criteria to be promoted. And it's often a checklist. And get a copy of that, and every day work towards completing that checklist as it's your daily roadmap for success. Now, for those of you that work in an industry where your year-end bonus is a large percent of your compensation, if you work for somebody that is cheap, and if they underpay you at bonus season, then please understand that in most cases, they will continue to underpay you. And they often never change. And so fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And so I want you to be open-minded about finding another job that will pay you what you're worth. Now, I don't recommend actively looking for another job unless you think you can get a 50% increase in salary. So let's say you just finished interviewing at a company and the topic of salary comes up, which you never bring up, you let them bring up. What can you say to get the maximum amount of money for your new salary? Well, the way you do it is you tell them what your total compensation is as follows. And you want to give a number that includes all of your benefits. So if your base salary is $100,000 and you get $50,000 per year in benefits like healthcare, childcare, retirement savings, matching, stock options, etc., then when asked about your current compensation, you just say this: my compensation package is currently $150,000 per year. You don't say $100,000 because your total compensation is $150,000. Of course, if they ask for a breakdown, you tell them your base is 100 and your benefits are 50K. And by mentioning 150K, if true, of course, then you're likely to get paid more from a negotiation perspective. Now, if you join a company and they give you the option to get a higher base salary or higher stock options, you always want to favor the higher base salary because it literally costs the company nothing to give you shares in the company, meaning options. And in the unlikely event that the company does incredibly well, they're going to give you more shares anyway. They're going to give everybody in the shares more company. Now, you do not want to say that you don't want any shares as part of your compensation because it will show that you're a potential flight risk, meaning you might not be around for the long run, or it could imply that you don't really believe in the business model. So why should they hire you? Now, please keep typing your questions and let me quickly discuss how to decrease the chances of you getting let go. So every few months, I want you to please ask your boss for a quick meeting. And in the meeting, I want you to start with this, if true: I really enjoy working here. I love our team, and we've accomplished so much together. And I wanted to please ask you for some feedback on how I can add more value to the success of our team. And of course, you write everything down that your manager tells you feedback-wise. And I promise you that your peers are highly unlikely to do this. Now, if there are any red flags or issues with your performance, your manager will directly or indirectly, based on their demeanor, tell you during that meeting. And of course, whatever criteria they give you, I want you to be obsessed about ensuring that you fix those issues. Now, if you meet with your boss and ask for feedback like this quarterly, then when your boss is asked by senior management to let somebody go on the team, they'll be much less likely to let you go, as you kind of signaled to them that you care about your job and you are not thinking about leaving. And never tell anybody you work with, I don't care how close you are to them, that you're thinking about leaving or going to graduate school. Because when push comes to shove, especially if there's alcohol involved, somebody might let it slip in order to save their backside. Now, if you don't ask for feedback during that meeting with your boss, then your boss might not know if you really want to stay longer term. Okay, it shows them that you're not a flight risk. Now, another way to ensure that your boss won't let you go is to get to know and be mentored by your boss's assistant. Why? Because the assistant has likely worked with your boss at a few companies, and they know how your boss makes decisions, and they can gently guide you every now and then. You can also decrease the chances of being let go, meaning losing your job, if you network inside your company and seek multiple mentors in different departments. And the more senior the mentors are, the better. And we all need Yodas or mentors to guide us. And they can tell you what you need to do from a corporate culture perspective in order to add more value to the firm. Now, for more details on how to network to find mentors, you can always download my networking book for free from my website, which is harounmba.com. Now, it's also crucial to mentor other people at your company, because when one teaches, two learn. And mentoring other people can really help to remind yourself what your DNA subfabric is for success. Also, I want you to think about why people get promoted. It's often because they're seen as a leader, and also because management thinks you can manage and mentor other people. So what do you do if you're getting bullied at work? Okay, and this is a quick side note. So here's a very, very short video on corporate bullies. Okay, and please keep typing your questions. There's plenty here. Thanks. If you bully people at work, meaning if you're a corporate bully, then I want you to keep watching this. Otherwise, don't watch the rest of this vlog. It's going to be out there today. But for you, the corporate bully, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being such a jerk. And by the way, you peaked in high school and you're so insecure that you treat people poorly. I get it. I get it. You're really insecure. I understand. But you know what? In a bizarre way, and I think what you've done at work, treating people poorly, is disgusting. But I think in a bizarre way, I want to thank you. Because you've motivated the people that you've treated poorly to quit and to join another company. Or you've motivated them to start their own companies. You see, frustration in business can be a beautiful thing. And I say it with love in my heart. Because if you're frustrated at work because you're being treated poorly, and I've been treated poorly many times before, then that forces you to get outside your comfort zone and get a better job. Or better yet, start your own company. If I can be resourceful in any way, helping you start your own company, please let me know. Thank you. Not the bullies, just the people who are being bullied, like I was. Thank you. All right, let me get to your questions. I'll kick it off with Jatan. How are you? It's been a while. You wrote, overall inflation has been reducing, but shelter inflation ticked up, meaning the price of housing. Yeah. How do you see the real estate sector in coming years? Yeah. So as interest rates go down, which is happening in Europe, the ECB just cut rates again this morning. Canada cut rates a couple times. And next week, the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates. But as rates come down, what usually happens is houses go up in prices in the long run because the cost of getting a mortgage is much, much cheaper. Yeah. So in terms of me calling the real estate sector or any market, it's impossible. Nobody knows. Because in the near term, what happens is stocks go up and down and real estate prices go up and down for black swan events, meaning events that we really can't forecast. And so I want you to all be very, very long-term focused when it comes to all of your investments. Now, Warren Buffett, who I love to quote and talk about, and he actually lectured one of my classes when I was in business school. It's pretty cool. I can tell you more about it if you want me to. But he said that if you bought Coca-Cola shares on day one when it went public, 1 year later it'd be down 50%. But of course, if you held on longer term, you do exceptionally well. And so whenever Warren Buffett invests in any asset class, and I want you to all think the same way as this, I want you to assume that the markets are going to be closed for 10 years after you buy that stock or whatever investment it is. And that will make you longer term focused. Now, when it comes to land and real estate in general, I think it's a much better investment than stocks. And the reason I say that is there's a dearth, meaning a limit of supply. And my grandfather, who's up in heaven with Katie, my sister, used to always tell me, Chrissy, buy land, they're not making it anymore. So in the long run, real estate is your best investment. It's also the best investment because unlike with stocks, there are certain write-offs you can get if you have investment properties. Like you can write off the depreciation. And in some countries like the United States and Switzerland, you can write off the interest on your mortgage. The leverage also is killer. And let me give you a quick example. Let's say you buy a house for $100 and you put down $20. So you've got an 80% mortgage. And let's say the house doubles in price. Well, that's a 5-bagger. How? Well, if you sell it for $200, you're making $100 profit on $20. And the leverage is much easier to do with real estate than it is with stocks. Also with stocks, you can't write off the interest and you also can't write off depreciation. Now, for those of you in my MBA degree programs, I have a complete real estate course. It's an elective that's exclusively going to be available for all of you by the end of October. The great thing about real estate, though, is that we're stockholders. We can't sell it. What does that mean? Well, we can sell it, but it's very, very illiquid. It takes forever to sell it. And that's a good thing, because if you want to panic sell your house, it's really hard to do. And in the long run, real estate goes up in price. The same thing goes with any stock that you love. And we've all been there. We've all invested in stocks and it's gone down and we freak out when we sell it. And then we lose a ton of money because in the long run, it's up a lot. So if you pull up the chart of most companies in the S&P 500, over the past couple of decades, it looks like this. And I want you to tell yourself, I don't know the path, but I know the destination, which is much higher in the long run. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Lay. Good to see you from New York City, Morningside. Excellent. I used to walk by Morningside Heights when I went to Colombia 8 million years ago. Shahar, great to see you. Ani chotze coffee achshav. And then we've got here Peter, who wrote, hey, Chris, here in Australia, the only thing keeping us out of a technical recession for the past year has been immigration. Yeah. What unique challenges does a stagflation economy create for investors? So I don't think that we're in a stagflation-based economy in general. So stagflation means that inflation is really, really high, and we know inflation is coming down. In fact, in the United States, it's come down to only 2.5%. Also with stagflation, it means the economy is not growing or maybe contracting. And here in the United States, at least, the economy is growing at 2 to 3%. Stagflation also means very high unemployment, which is certainly not the case in Australia or the United States, where unemployment is around 4% or so. So I'm not worried about stagflation at all. Now, when it comes to the price of labor is usually the biggest price when it comes to inflation for any product or service you create. And I think that AI is incredibly deflationary. What do I mean by this? Well, I think a lot of companies are going to start adopting and using AI to cut expenses aggressively in the next couple of years. And then a couple of years from now, they'll start using AI to grow their top line, meaning revenue. And so if companies cut expenses materially using AI, then that's great for the economy and it goes right to the bottom line. And my humble opinion is that I think that the S&P 500 over the next 20 years is going to be up between 15 and 20% annually on average. There will be down years, of course. And one of the reasons for that is AI, because companies will be able to materially cut expenses. And the impact that AI is going to have on the economy and the impact that AI is going to have on the markets is commensurate with the impact that the fall of the Berlin Wall and the advent of Amazon Web Services had on the economy. Let me explain really quickly about this. So in the 1990s, the markets did incredibly well and inflation was not an issue. And the reason why the markets did well is because the Berlin Wall fell around 1989. And when the Berlin Wall fell, what happened was you had all of this brilliant and cheaper Eastern European labor moving west. And that really helped the economies globally. Fast forward to 2005. The Berlin Wall teardown effect of 2005 was Amazon Web Services. When Amazon Web Services was introduced, and this was an incredible investment, meaning cloud computing, for 15 or 20 years. But when Amazon Web Services was introduced in 2005, it made it cheaper for tons of companies to operate online. For example, Uber would not exist. Airbnb would not exist without AWS, Amazon Web Services. And what Amazon did was they cut the pricing point on their cloud computing operating system product called AWS. They cut the pricing point more than 100 times. And that's incredibly deflationary. And that really helped the economy from an inflation perspective over the past couple of decades. Now, the same thing I think is going to happen with AI. It's incredibly deflationary, and I think it's going to be fantastic news for global GDP growth, as well as for the markets. Now, I know a lot of people out there are thinking, Chris, wait a second. Isn't AI going to take my job? No. It might if you don't retrain. You can certainly retrain. I teach you that in my courses. But according to the World Economic Forum, AI is going to take away about 80 million jobs next year, but AI is also going to create 95 million jobs next year. And so we always adapt. People freak out when new technology paradigm shifts occur. People freaked out when Google first came out in beta in late 98. People freaked out when Wikipedia came out in late 2001. especially professors. I heard it from the education sector. People freaked out because they thought, well, teachers aren't going to be needed anymore. People aren't going to need to go to universities anymore. They just learn online. No, we always adapt. We always adapt. So don't worry about AI. The only thing I will say about AI that I think is important is this. I think we have a 5-year window of opportunity, all of us, to start developing the brand of you through social media. And what I mean by this is doing YouTube videos or TikToks or Instagrams, etc. And I think you have 5 years to establish the brand of you before it's too late. Because I think in 5 years, the norm is going to be people will want to learn or watch YouTubers or actors, whatever it is, that are avatars. So you have 5 years to establish the brand of you before AGI becomes reality, meaning artificial general intelligence. And it's crazy, but I'm trying to disrupt myself using AI as well. Disrupt yourself before the marketplace does. Kind of like what Reed Hastings did at Netflix by disrupting his DVD rental business model by offering streaming. So how am I doing it? Well, I partnered with a large Bay Area company and I signed an NDA. I can't release the details yet. But from a customer support perspective, you can have a conversation with me if you take any of my courses for Q&A. And I've had a conversation with me. It's a weird thing to say. And I can't tell the difference. Yeah. So embrace AI before you get replaced by AI. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right, next up, Saeed wrote, hey, Chris, I feel like I always hear about things late, like Bitcoin in 2017. Is there a way to find out about new investment opportunities earlier? Any channels or news sources to follow? Thank you. Yeah, it's really simple. And here's what I do every morning when I'm showering and getting ready for these calls. Alexa, Wall Street Journal News.
From the Wall Street Journal.
Viking,
Alexa,
committed to explore.
Stop. That's all you have to do. It's like 5 minutes while you're getting ready. It's free if you have an ALEXA device as well. And it will tell you all of the long-term investment themes that investors are talking about. Yeah. You can also take a step back and ask yourself this. In 5 years, will this company or sector you're thinking about investing in be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? So in 5 years, do I think cryptocurrencies or AI will be more relevant than they are today? Certainly. And that will stop you from getting seduced into buying value traps, meaning stocks that are cheap for a reason. Because with most technology companies, once they start becoming a little bit less relevant, of course the valuation slips, but it's game over. And turnarounds only work in the technology sector, maybe 1 or 2 companies per decade. Yeah, so remember that. When a tech company starts to become a little bit less relevant, in most cases, it's game over. Other places where you can come up with great investment ideas longer term are websites like Seeking Alpha. I'm a huge fan of Seeking Alpha. It's a great aggregation of all of the IP on Wall Street, meaning all of the brilliant opinions, investment ideas, etc. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Boxing Guy wrote, what are your thoughts on DOT? I guess that's Department of Transportation, investigating the big 4 U.S. airlines on the airline programs. Will changes come from it? I think there won't really be any big wholesale changes on this. Yeah, I don't really have any thoughts on that sector, but if you're going to invest in the airlines in general, make sure to read the annual report and the footnotes, and make sure you understand what their hedging policy is with respect to oil future prices. Really quick side note. In the summer of 2008, the price of oil was literally $150 a barrel. And there was one airline that won, and that was Southwest. Because Southwest, back in 2003 or 2004, what they did was they hedged the future price of oil at $30 a barrel. So that's all they paid for oil. And then they were predatory to the extent they cut prices during the summer of 2008 to force the other major U.S. airlines into bankruptcy. And I talk a lot more about that in my options course where I discuss futures as well. And for those of you in my MBA degree program, just go to FA44, Finance and Accounting Semester 4, Class 4, for a 30-hour options elective. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Rohit. Hey, Rohit. Rohit wrote, I enjoy your courses on Udemy. Thanks for that stuff. You're most welcome, and thank you. All right, next up, I have got, and then JK wrote, Seeking Alpha is good stuff. I agree. Yeah. It's a wonderful website, especially for screening. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Daniel wrote, starting a second company after my first one failed. With estimated costs around $1.5 million for operations, should I aim for smaller rounds or seek investment up front? Yeah. So what I would say, Dan, is failing to plan is planning to fail. I would write a thorough business plan first. And I teach this in my MBA degree program and my business plan course as well. And never use your own money. And this goes to everybody in this call. When you start a company, I want you to use OPM, meaning other people's money. And I never want you to get a loan. And the reason I say that is because banks are chicken. And if you miss one debt payment, they can take your company away. Obviously, register your company so they can't come after your house. I recommend raising money from high net worth investors initially because the sales cycle is quite short when you talk to rich people. It can be a couple of weeks. Then venture capitalists longer term. In terms of how to do that, what you can do is create a 10-page presentation, meaning 10 slides, to articulate what your business plan is. And the bottom line is to only use Airbnb's model instead of any other business plan template. Let me show you guys very quickly what this means. If you're going to be creating a presentation or you're trying to raise capital, I recommend using Airbnb's pitch deck, which is really the gold standard. So Airbnb was backed by Y Combinator and other top venture capital firms as well. So the Airbnb pitch deck looks like this. Okay, it's very simplistic. Less is more, right? There's 10 to 12 slides in it. And you'll see here that each slide has only 3 bullet points or 3 graphics. And the reason we do only 3, meaning the power of 3, is because, as Steve Jobs used to say, we cannot process more than 3 things on a slide. So less is more. It's kind of like wonderful or beautiful pictures you see, of the ocean. They usually have 3 layers: sky, ocean, beach. Remember that. No more than 3 bullet points per slide when you're trying to raise capital or giving any presentation. Yeah. All right. And then, Dan, when it comes to trying to raise money, so if you want to raise $1.5 million, then obviously what you need to do is to forecast your financial statements, particularly your income statement, and show why you need to raise $1.5 million. So you're going to have a loss in the first year or two, $1.5 million all added up. And you need to prove, or show at least, what the use of proceeds is going to be from the money you're trying to raise. And I can go into much more detail now if you want me to. Thanks. All right, next up, Saeed wrote, Chris, with $100,000 and no house, and then you put I'm renting in brackets. Should I use it all to buy a house or split it like 20% for a house, 5% crypto, and the rest in gold and the S&P? What do you suggest? Yeah. I'd probably think about 50% in a house. And the reason I say that is because whenever you rent, you're basically throwing money in the garbage. And it's hard to buy a house. Like, it took me until my 30s before I could buy my first apartment in New York City. But think about all the money you're wasting in rent. And if you paid between $1,000 and $2,000 per month for rent over 50 years, then that's over $30 million in the long run. And I can show you in Excel if you want me to. So try to buy as soon as you can. Now, in terms of portfolio diversification, I think you've got the right idea there with 5%. In your portfolio, your stock portfolio, your investment portfolio, I don't want you to have more than 5% in any one particular stock. And I don't want you to have more than 20% in any particular sector, like technology, retail sector, financial services, etc. So I don't want you to put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. And if you are going to buy cryptocurrencies, I don't want cryptos to be more than 5% of your portfolio in total. And I don't want any one crypto to be more than 0.5% of your portfolio. And the reason I say that is because most cryptocurrencies are a scam. There are a handful that are great long-term investments. So I've owned Bitcoin forever and I'll never sell it. And Bitcoin is like digital gold. Yeah. All right, next up, Andy Wu wrote, do you drink alcohol? Just so I don't feel nervous, this is full of gin and vodka when I'm presenting. No, I'm just kidding. I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less. No, I don't drink. No. Okay. Okay. All right, next up, Andrea wrote, is it possible to transition from a portfolio manager in a boutique investment management firm to a hedge fund? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because what happens is most portfolio managers at mutual funds, meaning traditional investment firms like yours, most portfolio managers have a lot of experience going long stocks, but they don't have any experience at all going short. So it's tougher, a lot tougher. Now, you can still do it. I mean, there's a lot of people that started their careers working at mutual funds like T. Rowe Price in the Baltimore area and then transitioned to work on Wall Street at bigger hedge funds. You might need to take a step back, though, and be an analyst first. Yeah. All right. Next up, Rohit wrote, where do you get to know about the future interest rate prediction? Which platforms do you use to check the prediction of interest rates? Who predicts it? Analysts, etc. Yeah. So what usually happens is the Federal Reserve, which is an independent party, which is kind of like part of the U.S. government. The Federal Reserve, every couple of weeks or so, they'll have a meeting. And it's called the FOMC meeting, Federal Open Market Committee meeting. Then they'll release the notes, or minutes, I should say. And everybody will read the minutes to really understand if the Fed might be raising or cutting rates. And everybody dissects the language closely. So let's say the Federal Reserve, in their last minutes that was released, said, we are somewhat worried about inflation. Remember the word somewhat. We are somewhat worried about inflation. And in the most recent FOMC minutes, they say we are very worried about inflation. That language, going from somewhat to very, will spook investors into thinking that the Fed is going to raise rates. So you want to dissect that, look at that closely. What I used to do was I would take the last Fed minutes and the current one, and I'd run an auto compare in Microsoft Word to see where the language changed. Just look at the qualitative stuff, not the numbers. What you can also do, and I'll do this very quickly, is you can go to a United States government website called treasury.gov. And right here, you can go here to data and then yield curve, okay? And then you can type the current month and you can see what the expectations are for interest rates, right? Right here and then longer term as well. And as you can see, we still have a steeply inverted yield curve, meaning when rates in the long run are lower than they are today. Yeah. And I can talk about inverted yield curve more detail if you want me to. I've talked about it in previous webcasts, though. Okay. Next question is, in your MBA program, you mentioned to praise in public and criticize in private. And that's a management technique that I've always used. You want to praise people in public, and if you want to criticize somebody, meaning helpful feedback, you do it one-on-one, because there's nothing worse than being berated or criticized in front of your peers. It destroys morale and the corporate culture. Yeah. And then you wrote, but what do things about Ray Dalio's opinion that you have to criticize in public also during meeting? Yeah. Okay. I think I know what you're getting at. Yeah. So Ray Dalio, he runs a very large hedge fund called Bridgewater. And I've had a lot of friends that are senior executives that have worked there. And it's not that it's kind of a difficult or different corporate culture because, and this is publicly disclosed, everyone knows this, every single meeting is recorded, every single one, except for meetings in the bathroom or conversations in the bathroom. It's true. So that's not my management style, but that's theirs. Yeah. All right. JK wrote, greetings, Chris. Best blessings to you. More blessings to you. Thank you. Okay. Next up, Rohit wrote, do hedge funds hire analysts who are 30 years or over in age? Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you want to start over, meaning change careers, you can just set up a ton of informational meetings. Go to my website. You can download this book for free, which will help you set up informational meetings. And you can start over at any age, any career. And the reality is that the average life expectancy today is 26 years longer than it was in the 1950s. Yeah. And then follow up, you wrote here, does age matter to them? No, it doesn't. And if you're worried that it might matter to them, what you can do is on your LinkedIn profile, you can put your school, but you don't have to put the year you graduated. Yeah. And then you wrote, have you been rejected because of age? Not because of age, but to be honest, I have worried about it in the past. Like when I worked at Goldman Sachs, when I was in my 20s, I was worried that, oh my God, I'm gonna expire at 30, kind of like in that movie Logan's Run. Great old movie, you guys got to watch it. So what I did back then, because I was going gray in my 20s, was I dyed my hair. I still dye my hair now, and they used to say, "Chris Haroun, going gray, but that's okay." Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote, does relationship status matter as well? It shouldn't. If somebody doesn't want to hire somebody else because they're pregnant, that's not cool at all. And that could be the grounds for a lawsuit. Maybe I'm not a lawyer. Ask a lawyer. Yeah. But what you want to do ideally, and I'm a straight shooter. There's no filter here. I recommend working for people that have children. And I say that because they will understand if you have to leave every now and then to spend time with your kids. And I'll never forget, man, and shame on me, but Andrew, when he was in preschool, there was a daddy Sunday at school, right, where I would have breakfast with him and spend the day with him at school. And I missed that meeting with Andrew because I had an important work meeting. And you know what? I don't remember what that meeting was, but I certainly remember missing this day. And by the time your kids are 12 years old, you've already spent 90% of the time you ever spent with them. Always try to work for people that have kids. And then there's a question, do Indians get rejected because of racism in U.S. hedge funds? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah. Yeah. And provide more color if you want to on that, but absolutely not. No. Okay. All right. What is your recommendation about using U.S. Department of Treasury data for our top-down analysis? It can be helpful if you're trying to forecast where interest rates are going to be longer term. And just go to treasury.gov and look at the yield curve there if you want. Or go to my YouTube channel, do a search on yield curve, as I show you exactly how to read that data, and how to chart it. All right. My my CIO, or pardon me, CMO, Cassandra Cox, who's great. She always wants me to remind people to like and subscribe. Thanks. So click the like button if you want. Yeah. All right. Good morning to you too, KH. Good to see you. All right. Next question is it possible to start a hedge fund without experience in an industry and in finance at all? If yes, then please call the top 5 first steps. Yeah. No. It's very, very hard to do unless you manage your own money and you've done exceptionally well yourself. And you need to have an audited track record as well. Yeah. So I recommend going to work for a hedge fund first for 5 or 10 years at least. Go from analyst to portfolio manager, and then try to start your own hedge fund. Yeah. Okay. Mark, how are you? Mark is from Michigan. He always types in all caps. Please always do that. You remind me of my grandfather who was not yelling at me. He was just typing emails in caps. Yeah. So Mark wrote, "What's up, brother? Shout out to the Global MBA gang. Good to see you. Can you explain how fees are structured in hedge funds? Can you also recommend books and movies about pump and dumps?" Yeah, let me do that in reverse order first. So if you want to understand and learn finance from watching movies or watching TV, what you can always do is you can go to my YouTube channel, okay? And on my YouTube channel, what I do is I release a ton of videos that explain what all the finance stuff means from TV shows like Billions. And I also have a video on the movie Wall Street, The Wolf of Wall Street, etc. And tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, I'm going to release my next Billions vlog on season 3, episode 3. Hopefully that's entertaining for you. Yeah. In terms of how do hedge funds make money, meaning fees? So the way it works with hedge funds, venture capital firms, and private equity firms is they charge 2 and 20. Let me break this down. 2 and 20 means they charge usually a 2% annual management fee. I'll get to the 20 in a second. So if a hedge fund manages, $100 million, then every year they'll charge a $2 million management fee. And that $2 million will be used to pay for salaries for analysts, portfolio managers, office space, technology, etc. Then the real money comes from the incentive or performance fee, meaning the 20%, 2 and 20. So of the 20% means whatever money the hedge fund or venture capital or private equity firm makes, they get to keep 20% of that. Let me give you an example. If a hedge fund manages $1 billion and they're up 100% one year, so they made $1 billion, they're up 100%, they get to keep 20% of that $1 billion, meaning $200 million. And that's the big money for hedge funds. So who gets that money? Well, usually the owner of the firm gets half of it, meaning $100 million. And the other half goes to the portfolio managers that made the money that year. It's a meritocracy, you eat what you kill. Then the portfolio manager decides what to pay the analysts that report directly to them. Now, if your hedge fund does incredibly well, or your venture firm, instead of charging 2 and 20, some people will charge 3 and 30, meaning a 3% annual management fee and 30% of the annual profits. And if you have additional questions about hedge fund, venture capital, private equity fees, please let me know. Thank you. All right. Mark wrote, most meme coins seem like pump and dumps. How can I find out who is behind the pumping the company up? Yeah, it's really, really hard. Because the philosophy of cryptocurrencies with blockchain is we can't really tell who's behind these things unless you get somebody's public address, from their public key, not their private key, their public key, and you're able to find out who owns that public key, which is really, really hard to do. Yeah. Okay, next up is Ake. It's been a while. Who wrote, hello, Chris. I'm attending this after a very long time. God bless you. God bless you more. And before I get out of bed every day, I always thank God for 10 things in this order, which puts me into a peak mental state. Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, my wife, Christine, my mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, the memory of my sister, Katie, my sister, Elizabeth, and all of you, my students. Thank you. I am grateful. Okay, next up, Joshua. First time seeing you on the call. Hope you join us again. Joshua wrote, hi, Chris. I'm taking your options course on Udemy. Oh, yeah. I know what the issue is. So let me show you exactly how to solve this issue. I'll make this very quick. So what happened was Yahoo changed their API. Okay. And as a result, it's a little bit harder to get the information. So I have somebody that's worked with me for years. Great guy. I'm going to show you an image here. Okay. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Here it is right here. Yeah. All right. So all you have to do is go directly into Yahoo Finance, okay, and then manually copy this information here, okay? And if this doesn't make sense to you, what I want you to do is send an email to support@harounventures.com, and I'll explain in more detail. Thank you. And I'm going to update that course as well. Yeah. All right. Next up, Yaping wrote, hi, Chris. On real estate versus stock investing, I'm curious why there are way more prominent successful investors in the latter compared to the former. Okay, means more stock versus real estate. The job threshold in the latter seems also higher. Yeah. So I would say that when you invest, it's easy to pick stocks, but because you can buy and sell quickly if you want to, they're very liquid. But with real estate, it's tougher, because you're kind of a stockholder from a liquidity perspective. It's a very long-term investment. Yeah. And if you're interested in both stock investing, I should say, and real estate, you can also always look at what are called real estate investment trusts, REITs. And they're like stocks, they have tickers. And by law, they have to pay out 90% of their profits in terms of a dividend. Now, if you're going to invest in real estate investment trusts, I don't want any REIT to be more than 5% of your portfolio, as I've mentioned before, from a risk management perspective. Also, when it comes to any dividend yielding company, if you see the dividend is insanely high, like 20%, don't invest unless you do the research. Because two things might be occurring there. Number one, the market might be saying, oh my gosh, this company's not going to make it. Or number two, actually three things. Number two, it was a one-time special dividend. So always read the prospectus. Or number three, as my son used to say, it's just not a sustainable dividend. Yeah. I think I butchered that one, but you guys get the idea. All right. Okay. And Rohit wrote, what are the top 5 courses we should buy first on Udemy of yours? If someone wants to be an investment analyst at a hedge fund. Yeah. So I would start with a 7.5-hour course I created called an entire MBA in one course. Okay. And that's kind of a high level overview of all of business in general. Then next up, I would take the complete financial analyst training and investing course. Then I would take introduction to finance, accounting, modeling, valuation. And then next up, I would take, there's an AI course. I have the complete AI course, which will help you understand AI. And then there's an AI and investing course, which will help you understand AI and investing. I'd take them in that order. And if you have more questions about that, just let me know, please. Thanks. All right. And by the way, the first 2 weeks of October, there's no webcast because I'm going to be in Kenya building my next school. Yeah. It's a 6-hour drive from the Nairobi airport. Yeah. It's going to be a school for girls. All right. Next up, Stell's wrote, hey, Chris, this is Stella. Oh, my gosh, good to see you. Stella, it's been like 5 years. You wrote, it's been forever since I joined the webcast. Thanks for being my inspiration. That's right. You were in my first class back in 2019, my first MBA program. Stella, you're from South Korea, I think, right? Yeah, it's good to see you again. It's been a long time. Hope you're doing well. All right. Okay. And then Eek wrote, can you review my portfolio website, eik.me? Yeah, sure. I'll take a quick look here. All right, let me go here to eik.me. Hi there. I'm a full stack. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, make sure it works on mobile. Much more important than desktop. About you. Okay, so that's the Ethereum logo there. Web3 developer. You've got links to your LinkedIn, Insta. I don't know what that is. And then X. And then GitHub as well, which is owned by Microsoft. Yeah, make sure this works on mobile as well. Yeah. And I need to understand what you're trying to do with your website before I can give you more feedback. So if you're trying to promote yourself as a consultant, what I would probably do is something along the lines of book a call with me. And so what I do on my website, for example, is I have schedule a Zoom call with me to discuss joining my MBA program or coaching services. And anybody here, if you want, you can set that up to meet with me. You need what's called a CTA, meaning a call to action. Okay, so you link directly here to your LinkedIn profile. Yeah. And if you want, I can give you feedback on your LinkedIn profile as well as your other socials, which you have links to from this website here. Yeah. So tell me what you're trying to accomplish, and I can humbly give you my humble thoughts here. Yeah, from a CTA, meaning call to action perspective. Yeah. And what you might want to do also is provide a book or some kind of download or free course or whatever it is, just to be able to get somebody's email address. Right. And so what I've done, you'll notice I'm fully transparent, is on my website, when people go there to download this book, which is free, I ask for your email address so I can send it to you. Okay. And all I did was this was just this here is just the closed captions from one of my courses. Right. So you scroll down to the bottom, and this is a plugin here using Squarespace. Yeah. And email is still the gold standard in terms of marketing online. I know it sounds old school, but it still works. Yeah. Although my kids never respond to their emails. That's a generation thing, I think. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote here, I want to get a remote job as a blockchain developer. Yeah. Yeah. So what I would do is a call to action. meaning set up a call with you, a Zoom call, whatever it might be, using Calendly, the plugin, which costs next to nothing, in order to sell your product or yourself. Now, I recommend doing a Zoom call, and it might be a 2-call close, meaning you might have to do 2 calls in order to close your services, your products, etc. And whenever you do these calls, you can always upsell, downsell, cross-sell, etc., which is what I do during my Zoom calls. And if you guys want tips on how to sell when using Zoom or how to sell in general, I can certainly help you out a lot. Yeah. Just ask. And what you might want to do, last thing I'll say in the story, we lost a bunch of people there. Last thing I want to say is that I would probably provide a link to your Upwork page, if you have one as well, which will showcase some of the work you've done in the past for other clients, and always ask for reviews as well. And if you've had one big customer, like a big bank or a reference customer, you want to list that customer on your website if they let you do it, because it gives you instant credibility. All right, moving on to Sanjay, who wrote, hi, Chris, how are you this morning? I'm always great, thanks. Can you compare Warren Buffett's portfolio like how you used to? I'm trying to do it, but I have some troubles with it. Maybe today it'll work out. Yeah. So all you have to do for that, I'll show you. I'm going to show you in a lot of detail a link that will help you with this. All you have to do is go to my YouTube channel, okay? Then go to videos, and then click on this video here, which is called What Stocks Do Smart Investors Own? And I go through Warren Buffett's portfolio here, and I explain in a lot of detail how to tell what new positions he's added and vice versa. And as many of us know, Warren Buffett recently cut his Apple position in half from 40% of his portfolio down to 20%. Yeah. And that's partially what spoofed the markets 3 or 4 Mondays ago, as well as the Japan yen carry trade issue, which I can talk about if you want me to. All right. But I do remember him also getting out of Paramount Global and adding a new position in Chubb, which is an insurance company. 28% of Warren Buffett's portfolio is usually in insurance companies, like Geico. He's been with investing in Geico since the 60s or something. Yeah. All right. Okay. And then Ake wrote, and if I'm mispronouncing anybody's name, please let me know, and I apologize profusely. Ake wrote, I feel like I'm job ready, as I've seen people with lesser skills than me get a job in Web3. That rhymed. Also, if anybody in chat has questions related to crypto, I can help answer them. Yeah, if you're having issues getting a job or customers, etc., it's really tough, because every time you see a job opening online, you have literally a 1 in 250 chance of getting the job. So who gets the job? It's usually somebody that knows someone at the company. So you have to network like crazy. You can download this book for more details, but I recommend setting up a ton of informational meetings with people that work at the company you want to work at. And don't forget to ask for the job. And I can go into a lot more detail on that if you want me to, in terms of how to interview, how to add value in a meeting, etc. Yeah. All right. And everybody, please continue to type your questions. So Nellie wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning to you as well. You wrote, can you share any personal experience of starting from zero in challenging economic conditions? Yeah. I've started companies before in recessions. And that's the best time to start a company. Why? Because not many people start companies in a recession. So there's less competition. Also, psychologically, you're running it lean and mean, and you're terrified all the time. You're running scared. So if you have hardly any expenses, when the economy improves, you get immediate leverage, which goes right to the bottom line, hopefully. Yeah. And regardless of whether you're starting a recession or a bull market when the economy is doing well, I always want you to use other people's money, okay? Especially high net worth investors. And I want you to network like crazy to meet with high net worth investors and get them to invest. Don't waste your time talking to venture capital firms or institutional investors at first. Why? Because what happens is this. You have analysts that work at these big venture capital firms or big endowments and pension funds. And their job is this: to work 250 days a year and take 3 meetings a day. So you're a checkbox, 1 out of 750 meetings they've had. Always go to high net worth investors initially, because the sales cycle is quite short. Yeah. All right. But aside from that, yeah, I've had ups and downs in my career, that's for sure. But you got to have a positive attitude about life in general and everything negative that happens to you. It's like the Rodin sculpture. I think, therefore I am. What do I mean by that? Well, crisis is an opportunity if you choose to see it that way. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And as I look back on all the crises, is that a word, I've had in my life, they're blessings in disguise. And maybe it was spiritually me being guided in a different direction. So don't worry. And people worry too much about this crap. Most only focus on what you can control. And it was Dale Carnegie, and I got this from Amazon. I didn't realize it was going to be this big. There's my lights. But it was Dale Carnegie who said, our fatigue is often caused not by work, but by worry. So crisis is an opportunity. And Sir Winston Churchill once said, I met a man on his deathbed who talked about all the worries he had in his life, none of which came true. So whenever something negative happens to you, okay, from a career perspective, I want you to ask yourself this. What's positive about this moment? And usually what's positive is that with crisis comes opportunity. And Warren Buffett used to always say that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. So we need to be unemotional about business and investments and a contrarian and do the opposite of everybody else. That's the only way you'll make money. Think about it this way. If you buy the same stock that everybody owns, there's not that many incremental investors to push it higher. And be long-term focused as well. With crisis comes opportunity, always. Yeah. All right. And then Real News DFW wrote, if the Harris tax for long-term gains happens, will it steal real estate gains as well? I don't know. I know that the tax cuts will expire in 25 and 26. I don't know. I watched the same debate you guys all did the other night as well. Yeah. And I can't wait to watch Saturday Night Live. Okay. And now I do get questions about, people say, Chris, doesn't the market usually go higher if Republicans win because they believe in lower taxes? Well, the market usually does well when there's a split in the U.S. government, meaning the House, Congress, is controlled by one party and the Senate by another, right? That's just the way it is. Yeah. Now, in terms of Trump, if he were to win, does that mean the markets will go up a lot? We don't know. Because under a Trump administration, and I'm trying to be objective here and neutral, okay? Under a Trump administration, he might raise tariffs materially, more protectionist, which would be bad for the economy. But at the same time, he might cut taxes. So it's a wash, yeah. But we certainly live in interesting times. Okay. All right. All right. Next up, Yipping wrote, hi, Chris. Can you compare Canada and Australia, the two major immigration countries, from an economic competitiveness living perspective? They seem similar in a lot of aspects. Yeah. So, yeah, Canada and Australia are both natural resource-rich economies. When China is buying a lot of commodities, what happens is the Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar go up in value. Why? Because if China is going to buy, let's say, iron ore from BHP, what they have to do is first convert Chinese renminbi into Australian dollars and then buy it from BHP. The same thing with Petro-Canada. If China wants to buy oil from Petro-Canada, they have to convert the Chinese renminbi, their currency, into Canadian dollars. Then they buy oil from Petro-Canada. So what happens is the value of both those two currencies goes up when countries like China are investing a lot in commodities. Yeah, they're both natural resource-rich economies. And it's really interesting because if you look at Brazil, Canada, and Australia, their currencies tend to do well when a lot of commodities are rising in price, meaning when China is growing a lot. Yeah, and Brazil, it's the real, of course. Yeah. All right. Next up, Excel wrote, follow up on rent versus buying. Is rent better if you're only going to live in that apartment house for a short period of time? For example, when moving out for the first time. Yeah. It's hard. Whenever you, it's impossible, almost impossible, for somebody to buy a house, in their early 20s. It's just too much money. So I would look to save up as much as you can. So in your late 20s or 30s, look to buy. Yeah. It's hard. And what you might want to do, and I did not do this, but you can, is you might want to see if you can get a loan from your parents, because your parents will get a tax break from that. Okay. So it's mutually beneficial. Talk to your accountant first about that. Yeah. All right. Ted, how are you? Good to see you. It's been a while. Buenos dias to you as well. Okay. And then JK wrote, you've got a super assistant. She's watching out for you. Yeah. Yeah. You know what's interesting? I did a call recently, a sales call for something. And I do a lot of corporate training as well. And with big companies you've heard of. But somebody asked me on the call, are you real? Is this an avatar? And I was like, oh my God, are we there yet? It happened one time. One data point doesn't make a trend. But it's scary how good AI is going to be once Sora is available to everybody. Yeah. Okay. Okay, everybody, please keep typing your questions. Thanks. All right, Peter wrote, reminds me of the time in 2018 that IBM was accused of ageism. You wrote here, older workers were called dino babies who should be made an extinct species. Yeah, I never heard of that. My wife works at IBM. Yeah. It's a great company. It stands for industry's biggest mistake. I'm totally kidding. No, it stands for itty bitty machines, or I've been moved. Actually, if you've seen Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, there was a mean computer in it called HAL, right? HAL. And the way Kubrick came up with that was he added one letter to HAL, which is IBM. Yeah. All right. Next up, Roman Dogra. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Appreciate it. I see the trophy beside your name. You wrote, good morning, Chris. How do you deal with micromanagement, especially if it's coming from the top level? Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. The only time I think you should micromanage somebody is if they're brand new. And what I mean by that is this. When you hire somebody who's brand new, who's green, who doesn't have any experience, you're helping them by initially micromanaging a little bit. How? What I do is this. With new hires that have no experience, I usually ask them to do this. Every day, send me an email that has 3 things in it. Number 1, what did you accomplish today? Number 2, what are you going to accomplish tomorrow? And number 3, what issues do you have or questions for me? Just do that initially. And then eventually make that a weekly call or a weekly email you get, monthly, whatever. And then eventually just let them work independently. There's nothing worse than being micromanaged when you have experience. Yeah. And quick side note too, a couple months ago, I had the #1 venture capital professor in the world, Ilya, who sent me his book and signed it as well. Ilya from Stanford University on, and you can always go and watch that if you want, that webcast when he was promoting his book. But he mentioned a couple of really interesting things when it comes to managing people. He said, from a meeting management perspective, what you always need to do in a meeting is let the more junior employees speak first. Why? Because you want to avoid groupthink. If somebody senior starts a meeting and expresses their opinion, the junior employees are going to agree with them. It's a political thing. So get the junior employees to talk first because they have great ideas and an unbiased, fresh approach. Also, what Ilya mentioned was if you have a meeting and you have to decide whether to adopt situation X or Y, right? It's a tough conversation to have, and everybody wants X. Then at the beginning of the meeting, randomly assign one person to argue for Y. Yeah. Okay, and Alexander wrote, hey, Chris, I love your Excel course. Thank you. I poured my heart into that. It took me over a year to make it, and I had so much fun doing it. Yeah. Especially the promotional trailer. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Nintendo. It's been a while. Good to see you. I've got this here for a case study, my MBA degree program as well. Yeah. I love teaching with props. So Nintendo wrote, hey, Chris, I'm about to become a freshman in the Krakow School of Economics, studying international relations. Congratulations. Any tips for a young person like me who's looking for an internship next summer? Yeah. The first 2 weeks when you start school or when you join any company, you have to network like crazy, because the friends you make in those first 2 weeks will be your friends from university for life. It's just the way it works. So remember that relationships are more important than product knowledge. Networking is more important than what you're going to learn in school. And what I would do is every single week at school, the Krakow School, I would set up an informational meeting with one alumni, in person if you can, or over Zoom, and network like crazy and ask them about internships if you can. And my son, Andrew, he's third year Berkeley right now. He did that and he got a great internship as well. Yeah. He wants to work at Goldman or McKinsey. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one more thing. There's going to be a lot of on-campus recruiting events. Go to every single one of them, please. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote, I'm looking at consulting companies as well as banks. Yeah, everybody wants either Goldman or McKinsey, right? You wrote, any tips to break into such an organization for a young person? Yeah, yeah. So again, you want to set up a gazillion informational meetings with people that work at McKinsey or Goldman. You mentioned you want to work in consulting or finance. And I recommend, if there are people out there that are confused in terms of what should your career be, then I recommend getting what's called an origination job. And let me explain what this means. When you originate or create a product, right? If you understand how to make the product, but you hate making the product, that's okay, because you can move on to sell the product or do operations for the product. Let me give you 3 examples of origination jobs. The first one is investment banking, where you create the IPO product or the M&A strategy. Okay. And if you hate creating that product, if you hate investment banking, what you can do is you can move on to sell that product or trade based on that product, etc. And a lot of people hate investment banking because it's 100 hours of work a week. I'm sure you guys saw the news this morning that B of A, as well as JP Morgan, are going to start limiting the number of hours you can work as an investment banker at 80 hours a week. That's one origination job. Moving on to the second origination job, which is consulting, which is where I started my career. So you can work for McKinsey, for example. I worked at Accenture. So you originate the corporate strategy when you work in consulting. If you hate corporate strategy, you created the corporate strategy, so you can always move on to sell the corporate strategy, do operations, etc. And the third and final, or 3rd, as my son Andrew used to say, origination job example, is a developer, like a programmer, right? So say you work at Google, you're a developer, and you hate being a developer. Most people love it. What you can do is you can always move on to selling that product or managing people working on that product, etc. The bottom line is, if you're not sure what to do, start with an origination job. Yeah. All right. Next up, Rohit wrote here. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Rohit wrote, I'm an engineer and planning to do the Stern MBA. That's in New York City. Yeah. And that's where Barron Trump goes, I think, undergrad at least. Yeah. I'm planning to do the Stern MBA in finance from the U.S. as I want to work in hedge funds in the U.S. It's a smart idea because a lot of hedge funds are located in New York. Yeah. And I went to Columbia for my MBA as well. You wrote, I worked in finance field for 7 years, but in back-end stuff. Can you suggest some pathways? Okay, you worked in operations, but you now want to work on the front lines in terms of being an analyst, decision maker, portfolio manager, etc. Yeah, yeah. So I would network like crazy while you're at Stern. You know, it's a wonderful business school. A lot of hedge fund portfolio managers went to school there. Dr. Ellen Greenspan went there as well. Go to tons and tons of networking events. But what you also want to do is you want to be able to help people at hedge funds with investment ideas. And in my MBA degree program, I have this template you can use to pitch stocks if you want to. And what you're going to do is this. On your resume, on the back of your resume, you're going to put a stock pitch, right, which analyzes fundamentals, valuations, and way down here, technical analysis. Yeah. And understand that whenever you go into meetings to meet with people that might potentially hire you, I always want you to think to yourself, what motivates them and how can I help them, right? And people are usually motivated by three things. Number one, they want to make more money. Number two, they want to get promoted. And number three, they want to enjoy what they do. So in these informational meetings, you can help them make money by bringing them investment write-ups and then send them a different long and short investment write-up every week or so over LinkedIn or email, whatever it is. Yeah. And give, and help. It's if you give, meaning you help other people, you will receive in the long run, which is the subject of this book here by Adam Grant. And in this book, and I'm sorry the cleaning staff is cleaning today upstairs, but in this book, what Adam Grant talks about is the richest 1% of people in the world. They're givers, right? They want to help people and they have their entire lives, right? And that's why they're successful, because they give. Give and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. Yeah. Can you guys hear that vacuum? Okay. All right. And Ake wrote, thanks for the info. You're most welcome. And then you wrote here, my Web3 journey started with you. Thank you. When I graduated from high school, I bought your crypto course from Udemy in thoughts of getting rich early. But then I fell in love with this technology and here I am. Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay. And then our AN wrote, how do you make such attractive promo videos? So I work with an incredible video producer named Adad Warda. And so I edit all these videos myself, my billions ones I do weekly or whatever it is. But the other ones here, Adad created these, right? So what I did with this one here was, it's my Excel course, which is free for my MBA students. What I did for this one here is I went down to Bakersfield, meaning Southern California. And then we rented the same studios where a lot of Hollywood movies are made, lots of ones you've seen as well. And I went all in. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with this. Again, Adad Warda made this. He's wonderful. And we set this, it was supposed to be in ancient times. So this set here we rented. We rented 3 sets. I'll show you in a second. This here, it's and Adad is Assyrian, so he loved making this as well. But this here was me, walking through an ancient village in the Middle East. And then what we did was we took a page from Harry Potter in the next scene here, where I was inside a castle getting chased by people as well. We had a lot of fun with it. But usually, whenever I make my promotional trailers, I spend about 5 to 10% of what I think the course is going to make longer term. So this one here cost me humbly $150,000 to make. Yeah, but I'm very long-term focused whenever I'm thinking about any business I invest in. Okay, always long-term focused. And a lot of people don't spend money on promotional trailers, but I go all out, as you can see here. Yeah, and right here I got chased by a couple people that wanted to end me. But anyway, we had a lot of fun with this. Okay, let me get to the next questions. All right. Next question is, Danny wrote, I think my other question got caught in a spam filter. What are your thoughts on, yeah. So if anybody, there are certain words you can't use, and certain words that I've blocked as well. And you also can't put web addresses. So what happens is YouTube blocks web addresses. What you can do instead is you can do what Ake did, which is you can spell out a website like this. www.HarounMBA space DOT space COM if you want me to look at a web address. Yeah. Okay. So your question is, what are your thoughts? And let me get out of this screen mode here. Clearly can hear the vacuums. Okay, keeping it real. All right, you wrote, what are your thoughts on returning to the office mandates? You typed COVID, that's why. Yeah. So in the interest of full disclosure, a couple of years ago on one of my webcasts, somebody came on the call and provided their opinion on not getting vaccinated. And what happened was YouTube didn't give me a strike, but they gave me a warning. And the warning was medical misinformation. And it was at that point, and it wasn't even my opinion, it's just something somebody said. So I had to block certain words. I did not get a strike. And I realized, and it broke my heart, because I realized at that point in time that freedom of speech is not a company thing, it's a government thing. And so what YouTube did was they made me write a quiz, and they removed the strike warning. And the quiz basically asked me about whatever, medical stuff. Yeah. But that's why I blocked certain words. Yeah. And I was upset when it happened. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm more of a libertarian. Okay. But I did get vaccinated. Okay. So your question is, what are your thoughts on returning to office? Yeah. I mean, I don't believe in working from a big office every day of the week. Like, if you think about it, how ridiculous is it to drive into a big city, takes you an hour or two every day getting ready and driving, destroy the environment with your car, destroy your personal life because you're spending less time with your kids, destroy your health because you're not exercising as much, and you get to work and it's political, whatever. I don't believe in working in big cities. And I believe that commercial real estate in big cities is the worst investment you can ever make. And I think cities are in secular decline. So I'm all for working from home. Yeah, that's just me. Yeah. Okay. But during COVID, we all proved to the world we can work, remotely and go to school remotely. And during COVID, people were making a fortune on online courses. And I felt awful. So I made all my courses free then. And the reason I did it was, money is not my number one goal. It's helping people. And I remember there was a Udemy, on Udemy, 100,000 people signed up for free from Egypt one day in March of 2020. And their servers were able to handle it, which is awesome. And I did that because I was worried. Like, people in Egypt, where my dad's from, 80 million people live close to the Nile. Right? And so I wanted people to stay home and, yeah. All right, too much information. I lost 10 people. Good thing about doing these things live is I can always get real-time feedback. All right. Okay, next question is from Amit, who wrote, I've started again with your financial analyst course, and I'll complete it in this month and then bug you a lot, just giving you a heads up. Sure, you can always ask questions on this weekly webcast or within the courses as well. I'm here to help. Okay, here to serve my students. Next up, JK wrote, IBM prior to remote work options meant I've been moved. I've heard that one too. Yeah. Okay. All right, Fred Mendoza. Fred, how are you, man? It's been years. Speaking of COVID, Fred is in the Baltimore area. He works for a healthcare company, and during COVID, he actually met with Dr. Fauci. Yeah, I miss you, man, and thank you so much for that video you sent me of you with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, who had one of the best quotes ever, which is this. Dwayne Johnson said, "When you've got your back against the wall, there's only one way to move." Yeah, good to see you, man. You wrote, hello, Professor Chris, good to see you. How long did it take your business, the hedge fund venture capital, to become profitable? Yeah. So I was always profitable from day one because I use OPM, other people's money, always. And when I teach you all to start companies in the MBA degree program, I help you to start companies with zero expenses, that's right. And if you need money, you're going to raise it from other people. And I've raised and managed over $1 billion in my career. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I know it works. And I'm here to help my students, be able to start companies so you can live your life in your own terms. And when you start a company, I want your base salary to be the same as what you're making right now. How? If you raise enough capital, you should be able to do that, which is what I teach in the MBA program. And Fred, if you want, we can always do is you can go to E31, that's Entrepreneurship Semester 3 Class 1, to watch the Venture Capital Bootcamp. Yeah. And then join me today as well, starting at 10 a.m. for 3 hours of my weekly Zoom office hours for my MBA students. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But like in my company also, I don't have a single employee. I never will. I run an S corporation, so everything passes through. And I have tons of contractors I hire. Because I want my only focus to be on, number one, adding value to my students. And number two, creating new content. That's it. And I don't believe in doing like a weekly or monthly meetings or daily meetings. I hate that stuff. Because, and I remember once for my wife years ago for Christmas, I bought her a coffee cup. And on the coffee cup, it said, I just attended another meeting that could have been an email. Yeah. So everything I do, I use AI, I use automation as well, et cetera. Yeah. Okay. All right. But in terms of companies I've been on the boards of and I worked in venture capital, yeah, they're not profitable initially, of course. Most companies I've been on the boards of, don't become really profitable from a pro forma basis until they go public. Yeah. Raise as much money as you can when you can, always. Okay. All right. Next up, Ted wrote, Chris, please tell your students and kids not to date tennis players. Love means nothing to them. I love dad humor. And I started off today's webcast with I'm a tiny man, my awful dad humor. Yeah. And I'm excellent at Wii tennis, okay? I don't mean to brag, but pretty damn good at it. Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to Rohit, who wrote, how did you get into Columbia University, Chris? How do you make a business school application different to beat others, especially when undergrad grades aren't good? What do they see in their candidates? Thanks. Yeah. So I've helped a lot of people get into top business schools with a GPA of 3.0. How? Okay, a couple things. Number one, if you want to go to traditional MBA school, you got to kill the GMAT, do exceptionally well. And the GMAT is not an intelligence test. It's how well you write the test. So take the Princeton Review course in class, and I had to write the GMAT a couple of times. Number two, in terms of selling yourself, what you can do is there's a book I want you to order, okay, called, I just ordered more of this morning, called Marketing Yourself. It's called Marketing Yourself to the Top Business Schools by Here it is here, by Carpenter and Carpenter. Yeah, there's, I think, a husband and wife wrote it, yeah. And this will help you out tremendously in terms of how to market yourself and how to write your essays, etc. And you want to do something different as well. So for me, what I did, and you always want to explain to a company you're trying to get a job at, or to a university you're trying to get into, what makes you unique and different versus other applicants. So for me, when I was an undergrad, I went on exchange in my fourth year in Cuba at the University of Havana. And at that point in time, Americans were not allowed to go to Cuba. And I'm from Canada. And so I knew doing this would help to diversify myself when I applied to business school. And I knew it was a double-edged sword because some schools might say, oh my God, Cuba, enemy of America, not cool. But others that were open-minded might be more open to bring me on board there. Also, what I did was when I worked at Accenture for 4 years after undergrad, I helped to set up an offshore bank in Barbados for CIBC, CIBC Cobsco, which is CIBC Offshore Banking Services Corporation. So I tried to articulate I'm different because of that as well. So the bottom line is this. When you're interviewing to get into a company or you're interviewing to get into a university, always try to stress what's different about you because you have a unique perspective and you can add value in different ways given your unique experiences in life. What you can also do is this. You can copy your entire LinkedIn profile into the clipboard. Then you go to ChatGPT and you type this. I'm interviewing to work at a company or get into a university. I'm going to paste my LinkedIn profile below. And what I want you, ChatGPT, to do is I want you to give me 5 bullet points that are no more than 20 words each that stress why I'm different from other applicants. You can do the same thing as well with ChatGPT when you're interviewing. So for example, let's say you're interviewing to get a job and you're really worried about a certain weakness of yours. Well, in ChatGPT, you can type this, okay? I'm interviewing at a big company and I'm worried that they're going to see that my grades weren't that good in undergrad and won't hire me. I had to work part-time jobs. I want you, ChatGPT, to turn that weakness into a strength. And then ChatGPT might say something along the lines of this. While my undergraduate grades were not stellar, it was partially because I had to work several part-time jobs to support myself and my family, if true. As a result, my application goes much further than my transcript because I can multitask and handle multiple things at once, and I have real world experience. Yeah, so always use ChatGPT to turn your weaknesses into strengths. Yeah. Okay, yeah, how are you? Yeah wrote, hi Chris and everyone. Yeah, graduated from my gold MBA program. I think it was last year. Good to see you. Yeah. And then Fred wrote, who works in healthcare. It sounds like bankers work more hours than doctors. They certainly do. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, and the reason why Bank of America and J.P. Morgan just mentioned this morning, I heard it in the Wall Street Journal briefing, that they're only going to make people work 80 hours a week max instead of 100, is because there was this poor dude that passed away. I think that worked at B of A, according to the media, because of being overworked in finance. Yeah, and I never understood why you have to work ridiculous hours in finance. Like, why can't they just hire more people? I don't get it. Same thing with doctors. Like my brother's a doctor. He's a radiologist, which means he fixes radios. But I never understood why during med school and when he worked in hospitals, he had to work a gazillion hours in a row. How can you make good decisions when it comes to life and death stuff? Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question is from Nellie. First time I've seen you on the call. I hope you join us again. And Nellie wrote, what are some ways to generate revenue without significant capital in the beginning? Whew. I would say real estate is probably the best way. Yeah. As long as, so when it comes to investment property, right? And my goal is for my students within 10 to 20 years, I want you to all make more money from your real estate investments than you do your base salary. And so the way it works is as follows, in terms of your question about putting down a small amount of money and generating capital. When you invest in a real estate investment property, you want to make sure, and of course you're going to have a big mortgage. You want to make sure that the mortgage payment is less than what you're going to rent the place for. And that way you can be cash flow positive pretty quickly. Also, you need to get an accountant to file your taxes, because with rental properties, you can write off the depreciation. And the way it works with rental properties for real estate is you can write off everything except for the land over 27 and a half years. If it's a commercial investment, it's closer to 40 years in terms of writing off depreciation. And so in the first televised debate that Trump had with Hillary Clinton, I'm not going to express who I support, but if I lived in Canada, I'd probably wear a red hat that says, make Trudeau a drama teacher again. Okay. I did not vote for Trump, okay, in that election. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. Oh my God, Chris, you're an idiot. Okay. But I grew up a Republican. I love Ronald Reagan. Okay. So in terms of who do I vote for, Democrats or Republican, it all depends. I'm going to shut the hell up now. Yeah. But in Trump, when he was debating against Hillary in that first debate in 2016, he talked about the tax breaks he gets in real estate because of depreciation. Some of the wealthiest people in the world own real estate. And very wealthy people pay less in taxes. That's how they got wealthy. And that's how they get uber wealthy as well. Yeah. And I'll provide much more detail. I'll provide much more detail on the real estate stuff for those in my MBA program when I release my real estate elective towards the end of October of this year, which you'll all get for free. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, JK wrote, Chris, did you check out Kara PBS's, I guess, the show called The Chip That Jack Built? I don't know. No, I haven't. But if it's a documentary on semiconductor stuff, I'd love to check it out. Yeah. Let me go there really quickly with you guys here. All right, let's go here. The show I'm watching right now on Netflix is called The Perfect Couple with Nicole Kidman. It's really good, and Lieb Schreiber as well. Okay, so PBS is called The Chip That Jack Built. Jack Kilby. Oh, Texas Instrument guy. Oh, I will check that out. Thank you. Oh, I love that. I'll watch that today. And it reminds me a lot of something I teach about in my MBA program, which is the Traitorous 8. And so the Traitorous 8, let me put this up here as I tell you the story. Good enough. Oh, for crying out loud. Salvador Dali said, if you strive for perfection, you'll never reach it. Okay. All right. So the Traitorous 8 is this incredible story about these 8 people that worked for Shockley, which is a semiconductor company. And they hated the person they worked for and the bureaucracy of working for that person. So what they did was they all quit and they started a company called Fairchild Semiconductor. And the reason they started Fairchild Semiconductor, and Gordon Moore is actually right here, who's one of the founders of Intel, and then Eugene Kleiner is here as well from Kleiner Perkins, and that's Bob Noyce in the front there. But what happened was around 1960, Americans were brokenhearted, and they were brokenhearted because Russia beat them to space with Sputnik. And so John F. Kennedy, who I think was one of the best presidents ever because he started the Peace Corps, John F. Kennedy had his administration start NASA. And the goal of NASA was to send the first person to the moon in the 1960s before the Russians did. And in order to send a person to the moon, you had to put 100,000 transistors in the fuselage, meaning the top part of a rocket. And nobody could do it. And so these guys here figured it out. They started Fairchild Semiconductor here in the Bay Area. And they were able to help NASA to be able to launch this rocket. And then what happened was Silicon Valley was born because of these dudes. Let me stand back here so you can see a little bit more in focus. It was born because of these guys. And then what happened was, what happens with all big companies is Fairchild Semiconductor got too big and bureaucratic. And so people quit Fairchild, meaning the Traitorous 8. That's the Fairchild logo there. They quit Fairchild Semiconductor. And they started Fairchildren companies like Intel, NVIDIA, a bunch of other chip companies. And then around that, hardware companies emerged. And around that, software companies emerged, like Oracle. Oracle was a CIA database initially called Project Oracle. And then the internet and yada, yada, yada. And that's why Silicon Valley exists. Thank you for your tip on the chip that Jack built. I will check that out. Okay. If you strive for perfection, you'll never reach it, Chris. That's what Salvador Dali said. All right, I'm having fun. All right, next up, Rohit wrote, Chris, what is your view on sports trading? Yeah. I have cracked something which makes 30% ROI annually. Do you think that sector is growing or slowing? Would you like to invest? I can send you more details. No, thank you. But God bless you. I appreciate that. I don't invest in my students' companies. Yeah. All of my money goes towards building schools in Africa as well as scholarships. Yeah. Thank you. I'm against sports betting because if you train somebody to love betting on sports, the next step could be, going to a casino. That's a sucker's bet. Yeah. Kind of like how, and this is my perspective only, I don't believe that marijuana should be legal, except for medicinal purposes. Because what's next? Opioids? So anyway, that's just my humble thoughts on that. Not a fan. And it kills me when I watch like Major League Baseball. It kills me because when I watch baseball games on Apple TV, and I hate when Apple broadcasts them because I don't think they're very good at what they do. But I hate the fact that they show the percentage chance of the team winning on the bottom of the screen, because that's being influenced actually by gambling. Yeah. So anyway, I'm not a fan of sports betting. I don't think it should be allowed. Yeah. Okay. And then Ion wrote, "Hey Chris, I'm really impressed by your Excel promotional trailer. Thank you. I've completed my course on the complete foundation of Forex trading. And now I'm thinking about making a promotional trailer just like you. I've rented a camera and hired an editor and a cameraman, and I'm just 15 years old. I can't afford to make a $150,000 trailer yet. I completely understand. Yeah. So what I've also done is I created, I think it was like 10 other trailers that cost a lot less than that. Instead of 150K, it cost closer to 20, less than 20. If you want just ideas, you can basically just go to my YouTube channel here, and then just mouse over or watch these ones here, just to get ideas. Yeah. It's hard. This one here, I rented an entire data center when I was in the Czech Republic, and I had to sign waivers here saying that if there's a fire, there's going to be chemicals that come out of the ceiling, and it would save the equipment but kill all of us. That's the Czech Republic data center. Yeah. But you certainly don't have to spend as much as I do. You can make something like this, which is green screen based, and just record yourself in your studio if you want to, or wherever. Yeah. And for me, the reason why I have a blue background here and not a green background is because my eyes are green. And so I can't do green screen. And so I have to use blue screen. And a lot of people have green eyes, people mainly with Irish descent. And this is my Irish grandmother. Thank you, Grandma. I missed you. A lot of people with green eyes in movies, they have to wear contact lenses. Otherwise, you can see right through them. You can all certainly see right through me. Okay. Yeah. Now, Ian, what you can do is, when it comes to coming up with a promotional trailer script, you can certainly use a chat GPT for this, right? So I'm going to create a trailer for you right now, just the script. Go to chat GPT. Okay. My name is Ian. I want to create a 2-minute promotional trailer for my Forex trading course. Write it for me. And it'll come up with it here. Okay, opening scene, intense music starts, visuals, fast-paced stock market visuals, candlestick charts, which you can get you can download these anywhere, these videos of this, and trading screens flash across the screen, narrator's voiceover. Are you tired of the 9-to-5 grind? Do you want to take control of your financial future? Cut to the scene of you, Ian, standing confidently in a modern office setting. Ian on camera. Hi, I'm Ian, and I've been a successful Forex trader for over, it has to be less than 15 years. I've turned my passion for trading into a consistent income, and now I'm here to help you do the same, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, you can do that. And then what you can do in terms of getting videos for the backdrop, what I do is I go to Adobe Images, and I license my stuff here. Okay. What you can do here is you can do a search for a video, stock market, and then you can download these as well. Okay, so here's the candlestick chart thing, sort of, that it referred to. Let's see if there's more candlesticks. Yeah, right here, for example. You can license this. I've licensed this one before. Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful to you. And within a year or two, I think you'll be able to use Sora, meaning OpenAI's product, to create something like that quickly. Yeah. That was fun. All right, moving on to Malik, who wrote, hi, Chris. Nice to meet you, Malik. First time I've seen you. Hope you join us again. Thank you. You wrote, I bought your cryptocurrency course, and I'm at a mining topic. I want to know, is there cryptocurrency trading in your course? I love your course. Thanks. Yeah. I don't teach trading. The reason I don't is because there's not a single successful trader in the world that we can name that's been successful year after year after year after year. Why? Because you get fooled by randomness. And what makes stocks or cryptos or anything go up or down in a short amount of time is random events we can't forecast, meaning black swans, rare events. So what makes stocks or cryptos go up or down in the near term, or in many asset classes, is random crap like saber rattling between two world leaders, or maybe one company had negative earnings release, which impacts the whole market, or somebody like Warren Buffett sells a big position in Apple, or Japan has comments about interest rates, etc. And each month has 30 days, okay, or 20 weekdays, I should say, meaning 20 days the market's open. And we can't call stocks within a short amount of time, or cryptos, or any asset class. So I'm very long-term focused always. Yeah. Thank you for that comment, though. All right. All right. And then next up, Rohit wrote, what is a good risk-reward ratio for you, which you used on investors' capital or your own? Thanks for answering my many questions. Don't get tired. There's so much energy at that age. What is your secret? Yeah, thanks. A couple questions there. Yeah. So for me, what I always look for is if it's a long idea, I make sure that the upside to my target price is much bigger than the downside to my support level price. So positive risk reward. Risk is downside, reward is upside. And usually I don't invest in companies where I only see 10 or 15% upside per year. Why? Because the market is usually up or down that amount in a year. I like to invest in companies for the long term that I think are 5x5s. And what that means is a 500% return within 5 years. Am I wrong? Oh my God, almost all the time. But am I a little bit right sometimes? Yeah. And let's say one of those companies is only up a couple 100%. That's pretty damn good. But I do so much investment research on companies that I'm actually an investor in them. You know, I'm not a tourist. I'm not a renter. I don't rent stocks. Let me show you my investment philosophy. All right, and how to pick stocks. So let me go here to Excel Hell. And for those of you in my MBA degree program, this is one of the many templates that you receive in my program. That's me buying time while Excel loads. You guys saw me pick Excel, right? Here it is here. Okay, good. And let me go to investment research dashboard here. And next door, my neighbors are doing construction on their house. It's ugly. So we just actually planted 11 redwoods. So eventually we won't see anymore. But this here is, again, one of the many templates I provide you in my MBA degree program. And so when you analyze a company, you look at qualitative, quantitative, and financial research steps. So I've got 100 steps here to analyze any company. And you answer 730 questions in 100 steps. And then what happens is based on this, you get three things. Number one, you get, and this is just dummy data here, you get a one-page write-up that looks like this here, okay, that has fundamentals, valuation, and technicals, okay? Then what you get is you get a 100 to 150 page research report. And then you also get a dashboard, meaning a visualization of everything you entered in. Now, the most important thing to look at is the management team and then forecasting your financial statements down here. And so you enter in all this information and every tab has got a video you can click on, right, to get more details on how to use that tab. But it all feeds into three valuation methodologies: price to earnings, price to revenue, and DCF, to come up with a target price on your company. And the reason I like to look at three different target prices, and again, this is dummy data, is because 1 year, and this is what investment bankers do, and equity capital markets for IPOs on Wall Street. So the reason you look at three different valuation methodologies is because one of the valuation methodologies is going to be wrong, usually discounted cash flow. And you want to minimize the margin of error by taking an average of all three. And you do a sensitivity analysis, auto red flags. One of the last steps is technical analysis, etc. So that's how I do investment research. And this is just one of many templates that I provide my students in my MBA degree program. Yeah. So you can all work smarter and not harder. Yeah. Okay, let me go back here. And for my real estate elective coming out soon for my MBA students, I have a similar dashboard as well that will help you write a business plan for any real estate investment, meaning your primary home or a rental property. Yeah. Including financial statements. Yeah. All right. All right, guys. So I'm going to wrap up this call. For those of you in my Silver MBA degree program, you can learn more at harounmba.com. But for those of you in my Silver MBA degree program, if you go to the first lecture, you'll be able to get the link for the Zoom call that will start at 10 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.